Hello, and welcome back to the Check in Chat podcast. We've checked into the pit stop and now we're chatting all things Amazing Race. I'm your host, Matt, and today it's season 37, episode 10. We're in Strasburg, France, and always a stressful episode. A lot of stress. It's high tension, high drama as the quarterfinals took place, and now we are coming down to 4 teams heading into finale week. Now, before we start, I just want to say I'm sorry this is late. Unfortunately, due to some work circumstances, I've had to be given some more responsibilities and a bit of additional workload this week. So, unfortunately, that's taken a majority of my time. So, it is a little bit later this week. I'm sorry for that. But to be fair, this week is going to be another big week. It's Eurovision week as well. So, and 2 episodes heading into the finale, so who knows what's going to happen when the next episode is going to come out. But we'll get to that when we get to that, because we've got an episode to get into, plus I will be eulogizing the eliminated team later on, and let me tell you, it's going to get emotional. Gay down. Let me tell you. So let's get over and done with. Let's start the episode. Before we begin, I just want to say many congratulations to Nick of Nick and Mike. He's having a baby. They've just announced it this week, has a positive pregnancy test. So congratulations to Nick. I just want to say that first of all. First up, Jonathan and Anna, they're first to leave at 11:51 a.m. I don't know why, it was only 2 weeks ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago. It's like when Ernest and Bridget were on the show so long ago. But they leave at 11:51 a.m. and they're told to fly to Frankfurt, Germany, and then take a train to Strasburg, France, and then self-drive to the Council of Europe to get the next clue. And while they're doing, while the intro to this is happening, the Ode to Joy is being played, and in the background, just made me happy. I sing along. And also hearing this like little intro for Phil's in. He's on a bridge with Austrian flags on it. But did anyone notice that? Did anyone question it? Because I did. I thought that was a little odd. Anyway, welcome back to the next leave at 11:56 a.m. And basically, they all get on the same flight. So why do we have to see them one by one going into the travel agency and asking for everyone to go like, oh, we want the same like they had? I do know a little bit of extra little snippet tea on the whole booking, but I'm going to get that in a minute. Well, actually, I'm going to get into that next week in Tome of Foes. A tease. I'm recording this late. I don't know what I'm saying at the moment. Alyssa and Josiah, they're third to leave at 12:17 p.m. and they know they are going to use the express pass this leg at some point. Of course, this is after this leg, it expires. So they want to make sure they use it properly, and Josiah has a lot of feelings about what happened in this leg. He let it out after the episode aired. He let it all out. He needed to vent. Let me tell you, my boys, Carson Jack, they leave at 12:26 p.m. It was actually quite close. Looking between like the first 4 teams here, 35 minutes between them. So close, wasn't it? So, you know what it's time for. It's time for Tome of Foes. This is the section of this podcast where I talk a lot of gay things. Unfortunately, this week, not as many gay things, unfortunately. But still, of course, this is where we talk about Jack and Carson's recap. And first of all, they had these Italian costumes. Like, they were like chef's outfits, and I totally lived for it. I lived for it. You got bonus points there this week, boys, from me. And I hope you got them written off as a business expense. Okay? You need to get them written off your taxes. Okay? Even though it would be having to be written off for next year now. Because I think the financial year's only just started now again. Anyway, I digress. This week, there was a lot of madness going on. and not just the mozzarella madness. There was madness within the most was unaired for the episode, and so we got a lot of high drama. And also at the beginning of the episode when they first arrived in Naples, so they're all heading to the first club, and they're all heading to of this like castle thing, and so we saw on the show there was like this cannon with like the flowers, and we've seen it before. They like to use that as a route marker, but then apparently like the police has sort of barricaded it off so they couldn't go like up the stairs the normal way. So there was an elevator, and Alyssa and Josiah found the elevator first, but was debating on whether they were able to take the elevator. So while they were doing it, Jonathan and Anna and Hannah Holden went in the elevator and went up. So that's how they got ahead. And then the other three teams got on the elevator next. So that sorted that whole fiasco out all over an elevator because they didn't know if they like would have broke the rules. But then production, oh my production. So with the last few teams in the funicular back down, so the camera guys got into it on whether the teams could eavesdrop on the other teams getting directions. And this got into a heated argument. They had they were going at it. But then also Alyssa and Josiah, they got a bit of a telling off because they got a bit too far away from their camera. Not like extremely far. It wasn't an Angie and Danny situation, but I think production wanted to avoid that. So Alyssa and Josiah got a little bit of a scolding there. We also find out that that the true mozzarella madness was that teams between each turn they would use like attempts. They would use their cheese, so they had to wait for more hot cheese to be ready for them to come out to use. So a lot of teams had to wait for the new cheese to arrive, so they were able to continue their turn, and that's why I think that Mark and Brett took a bit longer. That's why I think Carson Jack was able to take over then because of the whole cheese situation. Which see, we never got this in the episode. See, this is the information that people want to know. The gays give it. The gays give it good. And then also there was this whole thing this week in this episode about from the fans, but why did we not see any reaction shots of them finding out it was a non-elimination? Because like one of the famous non-eliminations I always like to go back and watch is season 19 when Bill and Kathy when they were non-eliminated in the first episode and they walk into the airport at the beginning of the second episode and I was like, oh, Mom and Pops are still here. I love watching that back. I've watched that a few times. That was heading to the double elimination episode. But here's the tea. So, as you know, Jonathan and Anna finished the Pizza Roadblock first. And so the other four, like at the table right next, well, there was three of them at the time, because Hannah and Holden were there, but the other three were like eavesdropping and they could hear. The clue didn't say will be eliminated. So they knew already it was a non-elimination and they were discussing it at the table that it was a non-elimination. And so apparently when they got onto the mat, Phil told them that it was a non-elimination. Phil, the eliminator, Mr. Kogan, why? Why, Phil, why? I know to explain the twist episode, but why do that when it's never going to air? I know he did not at the time, it wasn't going to air, but it was like, we like the reaction shots. It would have been more exciting than having to guess more. I'm like, next time I was like, was the twist there was no twist? And then we're like, yeah, but like, it was a non-elimination. See, high drama. And then we would have got the Carson shock face where we see everything in his mouth. So the boys talked about how they felt that the non-elimination was in a good placing in the season as viewers had gotten time to know the teams and sort of root for their favourite teams, and it sort of allowed them to keep going a bit I'm going to really root for them. I feel it could have gone a bit earlier. Not like early in the season, but I think it could have gone a few legs before. Maybe at the end of Bulgaria 1, because that might made a bit more sense. And then a different penalty, because there was no penalty. We're going to get to the fact there's no non-elimination penalty. What in the early seasons is going on? We're gone real old school here. They're like, we're going back to season 1 to 4. Okay, fans weren't happy about this. I was fine with it, but they would have like preferred like a mark for elimination over like a speed bump. So I felt in general that the leg was very anticlimactic, and I feel like it. I need there to be high stakes at the end game, especially if there's no penalty. So I need them to really bring it in, and I feel like we sort of got it in this episode because there was a lot of placement changes. And that's it for Tome for this week. I know. But as I said, I might do a little bumper edition next week, being the final one. So I'm going to be excited. I'm going to feel very sad when Tome is over. So I'm not being able to talk about my boys anymore. Anyway, we'll be back for the final edition next week. Han and Holden, their last leave at 12:58 p.m. And Holden says they're going to fight with every single breath. They're obsessed with breathing lately. We're going to get more breathing later. A lot of breathing talk. Do we need to provide them with an oxygen tank? I'm starting to get a bit concerned. A lot of breathing talk. So, of course, they went to Frankfurt, Germany. Luckily, they didn't get a connection. The one place you never want to try and get a connection or fly from is Frankfurt. As past racers can tell you, not the best airport. Quite a terrible airport. No offense to the people who live in Frankfurt. Good day. So they're on the train to France, and we get a segment here on why Jack and Carson, my boys, would like to win. So Jack, for those who don't know, he was recently laid off before the race started, and so they wanted to maybe help invest their Dream Wars. For those who haven't seen Dream Wars, it's iconic, and give it like a little zhuzh. Give it a little zhuzh, give it a little production value, like a little bit of investment. Check it out, and also like subscribe. Okay, subscribe to their channel. Okay, and not actually all the races channel. Like Jonathan and Anna's channel, and Nick and Mike's channel, and Laurie and Scott's channel. All the channels. That's it. We have a shot of Anna and Han. They're sitting next to each other in the train, and that's just two strong, empowered women in one shot. And Anna looks like she's just sizing up Han as competition, as Anna should. Han is big competition. Okay, don't underestimate Han. Now, just a negative note here. I do not like that rail graphic, the rail track graphic they use to show the journey to Strasburg. Like, that needs to be redone. I do not like it. I felt it was cheap and it could have been done better. So they get into Vanso, and Josiah can start to smell the baguettes. There goes the baker with his tray, as always. The world's of bread he goes to sell. Every morning's just the same. Every morning that I came. Well, you weren't all singing about from Beauty and the Beast as well? That's the first thing when it comes to mind. Bonjour, 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 bonjour. I don't know what's become of me singing in this podcast. I don't know. But let me tell you, it's not going to stop. I randomly sing a lot, let me tell you. So Carson and Jack, they're happy that the car isn't automatic. That means that Jack can drive. And Carson apparently said to be the better navigator, allegedly. I have to say that for legal reasons. We then see Han Holden, they're first to arrive at the Council of Europe, but there's no guard at the guard station. So, and they haven't seen like the little signboard, like with the opening times. So they can't find the entrance, so they run around the side of the building looking for it. Just okay. And Jonathan and Anna then get there, and they're on the other side of the street, and they ask Han and Holden if they found it, but the siblings, they just blanked them. I personally, I didn't think they heard them. They were too busy running, because sometimes that happens. I've experienced that. But Jonathan and they weren't happy with that. They thought, they're being rude, and I think like, Jonathan was like, oh, they're playing like that, okay, we're gonna play like that. But when Jonathan and I get there, the guard finally shows up and points that it doesn't open for another 5 minutes. And so Han and Holden, they come back now, and Jack and Carson, they also pull up. Whereas Mark and Betwell, they've gotten lost straight up, and Alyssa, she's getting a little bit stressed with directions. We then go back to the Council of Europe. It opens, and the main sort of door is closed. But Carson and Jack noticed the other set of doors at the side, on the other side of the revolve. They work, so they get through first, and it's not shady. It was fair. Like they got there first. It just so happened everyone went to the wrong door, and just like Carson and Jack just went through the right door. By the way, did you like how during this task that like the cute visitor badges? Isn't that adorable? I really like that. Like it's just a little thing that made me happy. So they're given a route info task here, and they were asked which 4 countries they have actively raced in that are part of the Council of Europe. Of course, the answers are Bulgaria, Italy, France, and Germany. Now, I have to contest here, as Germany was more of a layover than actively raced in. They just flew into there and then went downstairs to take the train. Okay, so they didn't really actively race in Germany, and even Jonathan questions it. But I digress, because it becomes a problem in a minute. But this task was like overly easy. Like the first 3 teams, they get it first try. But like I feel like they had to have an easy task to balance out the cheese task that comes later. Also, side note, the judge lady, I love her blue blazer. Oh, I love it. I thought it popped perfectly. But anyway, teams must now head to Pont Couvert to get the next clue. Warning, double battle ahead. And so we then see Alyssa and Jezza, they've arrived. They don't get it. They take a few attempts to get there. The Germany thing, once again, tripped up a little bit here, but they get the clue. Mark is still lost and is getting more stressful and is fudging a lot. While Brett, he still remains optimistic. See, this is why in stressful situations, Brett's the calm one. We love him. Han and Holden, they're first to arrive at the roadblock here, and the stands are celebrating now. There's a lot of Han and Holden stands wanting them to do well and get at least first in one leg. And so the roadblock is who wants to go head to head. And in this roadblock and double battle collaboration, first time ever, love that. The team member must compete in a water joust double battle to get their next clue, with the team that loses must have a 10-minute penalty, which is the first time in this US version that a penalty has been given as a consequence for the double battle, because the double battle was in season 30 and 31. Even though one of them was unaired, the consequence before for the double battle was elimination, because it all was at the end of a leg. This was at the start of a leg, which is where it should be. Well done, production. You've listened to us finally. Han, Carson, Josiah, Jonathan, and Mark all do the roadblock. And very key note here, the express pass can't be used for this challenge. I think a bit after the fiasco I think it was China, there was a bit of a fiasco because one of the teams used the express pass on a double battle challenge, and they've had to figure out how to deal with the next teams coming along. Anyway, Han decides to do this roadblock as the roadblock limits are almost up on everyone and they want to save Holden in case the next one is a memory challenge, which let me tell you, it's not. And this sort of same reasoning is for most teams. And talking about the memory challenge, bring back the season 12 style memory challenge. Love that. We love that memory challenge. We need that back. Carson and Jack, they're next to the roadblock, and Carson decides to do this. And the boys, they are over the moon. I'm inserting the shocked face here. It's going to be the banner this week of Carson and Jack finding out that it's a jousting task. You know, how Ren fair, isn't it? The others, they've never met a joust. Like, this is their element, you know. And let me tell you, I want to see what happens next week because in the press pics, of course, in the promos, there is a medieval roadblock. Like, I want to see what happens when they rip open and see it's a medieval roadblock. I honestly, I don't know if the medics need to be on standby for that. Like, they honestly might collapse in the overexcitement. They might be too excited. They might faint in excitement. Carson, he's worried about Han because Han's a surfer and is really good on the water, balancing. And Han exudes confidence that they're going to win today. And the fans wouldn't mind that. They wouldn't mind that at all, so go for it, Han. Mark and Bet there getting directions, and they find out they're only like 5 minutes away. And like, I can feel Mark's stress levels rising throughout this. But don't worry, you'll catch up soon. So we get back to the double battle, and the first double battle is Han versus Carson. And Han beats Carson here. And teams are told to head on foot to La Cloche al Fromage cheese shop to get the next clue. We then see, like, Carson takes it with good spirits for loss, but he's up next against Jonathan, and he beats Jonathan here with a little bit. Like, he threw the joust off and like sort of side knocked him off, and Jonathan, oh, is he a sore? He was a good sore loser here. Like, you could tell that he was upset, but he kept composed here. Not as much later, but this was one of the good times in the episode. So also, we don't need to see everyone reading the whole clue to the cheese shop. Do you remember seeing that? Every time they read the whole clue, I think it's the first time in the episode. For the cheese shop, we don't need to see that. Mark and Bet, they speed through the Cancel You Up task, and Mark's happy about the double battle that they'll be able to catch up to another team. And so at the cheese shop, Han and Holden are first, and their route info task is that teams have to memorize 9 types of cheese and then correctly identify the cheese outside the restaurant before receiving the next clue. And one of the main attractions for this was that there was the world's biggest cheese display. I'm just going to say this. That was disappointing. I expected better from the world's biggest cheese display. I'm sorry. I'm putting it out there. Wasn't that impressed? So they decide to split up the duties with them both taking 4 cheeses each, and then Han taking the last one because she's better at French. And also they have like these small cubes that they have to eat to help them identify. And so how are you supposed to remember all the names at once and then match to like the small cubes when the final like test is like the big wheels? Like, you're gonna have to look really carefully. Now, I love cheese. Don't get me wrong, I love cheese, but this one I would say is a hard challenge. But they also have Han, who's apparently lactose intolerant, I think she said. And isn't that a health concern? I would have thought about this challenge carefully if, for medical reasons, Han's possibly lactose intolerant, because you don't know what the complications of like eating cheese are. Like, is the cheese okay for her? Is she not going to end up being a bit gassy? Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking from a medical standpoint here. Because, like, did they think because it was small cubes they could get away with it? I don't know. But anyway, they fell on their first attempt, which, no surprise, is a difficult challenge. We go back to the double battles, and Jonathan beats Josiah. And this time, Josiah's a poor sore loser here. He is pissed off. And so, Brett and Mark, they catch up to the battle. And Brett is worried that if Mark loses, they'll be so far behind as the listeners have the Express Pass, unless something crazy happens. But Josiah does, in fact, beat Mark, and Mark and Brett wait out their 10-minute penalty. Also, Brett did get the episode title here. Jack and Carson, we see them arriving at the cheese shop, and they love cheese. And Jack has not met a cheese that he hasn't liked. They decided Jack to take 5 cheeses as he knows French better, and Jack apparently has a more appreciative palate than Carson. Cheese is just cheese, according to Carson. It's delicious. So I'm with Carson on this one. But anyway, Hannah Holden and Carson Jack, they fail on their next attempts. They don't really make it that far, about 1 or 2, and then it's just, then fail. Jonathan and Anna, they arrive at the cheese shop, and Anna decides to take the 5 cheeses. Alyssa and Josiah, they get there and see everyone is there, and they are debating whether to use Express Pass or not, and Alyssa wants to, Josiah wants to use it for detour. Now, Josiah had a lot to go off his chest about this, so I'm going to paraphrase some of what he said. So he said, this was after the episode aired, and he said, I should have listened to how Alyssa was feeling and thinking, and not what I believed in about us. I sometimes blindly optimistic and stubborn, while she's more realistic. I not only believe we can do literally anything, but I'm determined to prove it, especially if it's hard. So I need to learn when to call it quits. So at Cheese, I was sure we could get it for everyone, and I wanted to use it on the detour, whereas Alyssa saw how long everyone was there and realised we could skip it. So from that, Josiah did have a valid point. And Alyssa also had a valid point. So it was a tough decision to call, because usually a lot of people will say, oh, the detours usually, you use the Express Pass on the detour. That's what a lot of people would say, but this was a difficult task. And I think, Josiah should have realised a bit earlier, okay, everyone's here now. Maybe this is the right time, to use it. But, we live alone and they're still in the race, so go for it. So Alyssa, she's trying to remember her cheese, while also trying to block out Han and Holden arguing. And no, this is not a Mariah Carey moment. She's just trying to block out the arguing. Mark bets penalty up, and they catch up with the rest of the pack. And we now see a montage of the teams failing. Alyssa, she's still trying to push to Josiah to use the Express Pass, and Han and Holden finally pass on their 11th attempt. And our that teams must now make their way to the Cathedral Notre Dame de Strasburg and climb the roof, up to the roof, to find the next clue. And Carson and Jack, they finish not far behind them, and Jonathan and Anna are not happy that they're falling behind, especially into third place. And so they soon get there after 5 attempts, but Jonathan does make it known to Anna that it was her cheeses that were wrong and that kept them behind so long. Remember, you're a team. Hannah, Jack Carson, we see them get to Cathedral first, and it's a detour. The detour choice between out to dry or for the birds. In out to dry, teams have to go to a village, and once they arrive at the river in the countryside, they have to assist cleaning ladies with washing a ton of dirty laundry before receiving the next clue. And for the birds, teams have to construct a stork's nest from a farmer before receiving the next clue, and they both decide they want to choose out to dry, and they ask different locals for directions, but Directions tells that it takes 45 minutes out of the city from where they are, and that's a long way, especially for a detour. Because for most of the detours this season, they've been in quite close proximity to each other, but this one, oh, is it far? Anna and Jonathan, they next get to the cathedral, and while they're going up the spiral staircase, Jonathan tells Anna to be quiet. And Anna asks why is he being mean, and he says that she's a terrible partner. Jonathan, I don't know how you were going to talk your way out of that, mate. Like, I want to listen to your next podcast and have you try to explain that and justify that, because that was not okay. So Anna goes to ask for directions, and so she tries to ask Hannah Holden if they want to work together with directions, but Han drops the local's phone. Anna, can tell, they're going through stuff, so she just goes to another person nearby, a nearby cafe. And Jonathan, he doesn't even try and help. He's standing like 10 paces back with his arms folded, gonna be like, ooh, you know. I'm just saying, I feel like I'm gonna reiterate this point very soon. So he also tells the camera that he's really upset being in third, and like possibly even fighting for last when they could have been first. We then go back to the cheese shop, and Mark and Brett get 7 right. They're so close. And Alyssa finally convinces Josiah to use the express pass, but Mark and Brett, they finally get it along after. And so in the car to the detour, Carson talks about how he's happy to be the one in control of the directions, as he has control issues. What exact control issues? As I feel I haven't really seen anything at all on the roads. I feel Carson's being very demure, very mindful. So I want to learn more about that. And Alyssa and Josiah, veggies for the birds, and Mark is struggling up those cathedral stairs. Looks like he's on his hands and knees. And they also choose the birds as well. Han and Holden, they see that Han is driving towards Paris, and that's more north, whereas the detour is towards the south. So with good haste, she pulls over for directions, but they're not happy with the directions that they were given by this guy in a car, this red car. Jack and Carson, they arrive at the laundry first. The river, not that clean. Yeah, it must have been used to wash laundry a lot. So also those ladies, they were living their life gossiping, weren't they? They were living their best lives. Also, what is a cran? Like, Carson was talking about the stains, like, on the clothes. He talks about, like, there's some cran. What is that? Is that like a crayon mark? Like, or is it related to pens? I don't know. What is cran? I don't know. I need to know this information. Well, Anna, she's trying to explain to Jonathan about the direction she's got, and because Jonathan is just distracting her and needs her to go in the wrong way, and she begs then Jonathan to actually help navigate instead of telling her how she's doing things wrong. Mark and Brett, they get to the detour second. Second, people, they get there second. If only they know this fact that they're second. If they knew this later on, the game would change, let me tell you. And also, is this a limited station detour? Because I only saw 3 stations. So I don't know if it was a limited station detour or not. But Mark reaches into his pocket and he finds some cheese on there. Well, it might have been saving it for a snack later. That cheese is good. Any cheese is good. Nom, nom, nom. The demonstrator here at the Bears is not giving the best of guidance here for the boys. And this comes apparent when Listen and Josiah arrive, and the demonstrator gives a bit more detail to his nest. And this is all what Mark and Brett have been saying in exit interviews. And they're worried how fast Alyssa and Josiah are getting through the detour. Meanwhile, back at washing, Jack and Carson are now living for the gossipy grandmas, just like me. And they get a check just as Hun Holden arrive, and they get out of there. And they are told that they must head to wine country, the home of Pinot, and head to the Table de Oletition for the pit stop. For the sake of the race, the last team check-in will be eliminated. And Jonathan and Anna, they're lost, and they're in last place. Someone tell Jonathan right now that he's in last place. I dare you. I'm sorry that sounds a bit evil, but do it. I like. Come on, that the reaction. Jonathan, he tells Anna that he's now taking over complete control of the directions. So when she gives him the directions and she has to focus on driving, Jonathan just shakes his head like you're the navigator in this situation. Be productive and actually help navigate. I don't see you with a map or looking out for signs or road signs. And while she was getting these directions, you just stood there and did nothing. So why is it all her fault? I'm just going to put it out there. Mark and Brett, they get a fail at Birds. They need to add more. Alice and Josiah, they get a fail too. Both realise that the wooden board that they've been working on is actually part of the nest. And so Mark and Brett, they still get a fail and struggle to figure out where they go wrong. And Jonathan and Anna, they finally arrive at washing. Hun and Holden realise that you don't have to be perfect, but just enough to pass the task. We'll see how well they do shortly. Jack and Carson, we see them check into the pit stop first. We haven't seen much of them this actually, but they win a trip to Helsinki, Finland. What is it about giving Jack and Carson trips to cold places? I mean, that's because first remember the Alaskan cruise, and now Helsinki, Finland, which wrote home of the saunas. So I'm not complaining. Was that? And they said that they are proud of being ahead of a team with an express pass, and also NPC icon of the episode, the greeter lady, amazing bow, Jojo is shaking right now. Jojo Siwa is shaking at the size of that bow. Alyssa and Josiah, they get a pass at Birds with Mark and Brett and getting a fail on their fifth attempt, but they notice the one simple detail they get wrong, which is that like the zip ties need to be facing down, and they get passed not long after. But they see Alyssa and Josiah getting directions from a nearby family as they're getting checked. And so, remember, this is the important part here to remember, they both think they're in last place right now. So Mark and Brett decide not to get directions from the family, just to instead to follow Alyssa and Josiah. But Alyssa and Josiah, they're on to them. Back at washing, some of Holden's work gets rejected as Jonathan and Anna get a pass first time. They move up a spot, and Holden's work is still not good. Holden's in particular is still getting rejected, but they pass after their third attempt. Alyssa and Josiah, they end up losing Mark and Brett, getting them off hotel, who end up at the washing village for the washing detour. And they see Holden just as they're leaving, and this stresses Holden out. And Han is the one now to ask him to breathe. I said, this team of breathing, let me tell you, this just gives I feel like a full circle moment now. Han asks him to breathe. No one wants to give Mark and Brett directions. The gore, the gag, the audacity, the gumption. How dare they say no to those chisel faces? How could you say no to them? Of course you would. Alyssa and Josiah, they ask a girl down the way to the pit stop, and they ask a girl on the motorbike, who by the way is living her best life, about where to park, because so they drove up a bike path, and then ran up to the pit stop, which apparently is what you were allowed to do, but it was a very small path. It was in the additional information. And so when they get to the mat, Phil is using his magic here. He knows what he's doing. He's like, had a rough day, huh? Yeah. So he's doing the rough day treatment, and they're getting emotional. And then Phil was like, yeah, team number 2. And they are just emotional. They can't believe it until they thought that they were gone. So well done to listen to Josiah there. We then get Mark and Brett. but has some beady eyes as he spots a small sign that leads into the pit stop because a lot of teams are lost here. And Holden, he's trying to give a bit of shade to eliminate teams, saying they weren't nearly as good as the teams that are remaining right now. And Jonathan tells Anna that she did something wrong, then won't tell Anna what she actually did wrong. And he prays for patience. But don't worry, they're checking third. And Holden, they're checking fourth. And in my notes, in big capital letters, I have Phil, stop asking the teams to tell the others their placements. It's your job to tell them where they are. Dear me. Phil, I don't have to give you a refresher course on Amazing Race 101. I don't want to do that. And Brett and Mark, they come in last and they're eliminated. And Brett's crying. I'm crying. But apparently between like the 5 teams, it was like a 48-minute difference. So it was sort of close, but so upsetting. And after the break, I'm going to eulogize the eliminated team very shortly. But it's time for I'll Do It My Way to tell about the choices I would have made this week. And so first is going to be the double battle roadblock combination. And so if I would have done it this week, yes, I would have gone for it. I'm all up for a joust. Living my best life. I would have gone for it. I would have had a good go. I'm not as strong. I don't have the muscle. But I would have gone for it. Like, if Carson can knock off Jonathan, anything's possible. So, folks, believe, achieve. And then for the detour, I would have gone for the washing. I thought this was the more easier one to do. Like putting together a bird's nest was sounding more intricate and complicated. Where it's like you're washing clothes. Pretty simple. You know what to do. It's pretty cut clean. Okay, and so I would have gone for the out to dry detour there. So that is it for I'll Do It My Way for this week. And when we return, I will eulogize Mark and Brett in Rooting for You right after this. It's time for We Were Rooting for You. We were all rooting for you. This is a segment of the show where I eulogize the eliminated team, and this week it's Mark and Brett. No, gay down. Gay down. Oh, my gays are gone. We only got one gay team standing now. I was so when they got eliminated, I was genuinely emotional. Like, I really felt for them. At the beginning of the season, of course, being the gays, I was rooting for them, but I didn't feel like I really got to know them until a few more weeks into the show, into the season, and then I learned more about their personal background, and I saw their audition video, and that got me even more choked up. I'm not going to get into it because I'm about to cry just thinking about it. But if go back and watch the last few podcasts, I talk about it in detail there. They actually did pretty well to think about it because they got second in the first leg, and then second leg, with the intersecting roadblock, they fell behind, but that was more on Ernest's side, not Mark's. And then they still was able to come back, gain a few more places from last place. So they crushed it. Like in the early season, they were crushing challenges. So they did it, and then it wasn't like until they were sort of equalized in Indonesia, but they started to gain back and come more to the front of the pack. And then they ended up sort of back in the middle again. Before going back up to the top when we head into Bulgaria too, I thought weren't stressful as a team. I felt, Mark did get stressful at times, but I feel like Brett really counteracted with him really well and really was able to meet his needs and sort of like was able to. It was like, zen, yin and yang is what I'm getting to, yin and yang. I felt it was very yin and yang. I felt that they really complemented each other on that. I feel like I was a bit misled because in the preseason, I feel like I was promoted by them as having like a big drama moment, like stressful that could break them down. That's what I got appeared like, felt was portrayed by them preseason, from whatever we got, which actually is not the case. And like the only drama moment was sort of the whole like confrontation in the Utah vote between them and Scott and Laurie. But that wasn't really anything. That was just like for the most part stating facts. But they didn't really have any dramas with other teams. You know, very strong, and I honestly think some of them weren't seeing them as true competitors. Obviously, they have not looked at them because they're definitely competitors, and just look at them. Mark has a perfect jaw. Who like we would kill for that perfect jawline. Let me tell you. But overall, Jeremy, I loved them on the race. I felt they were really good. They were one of my favorite teams, and not just because they were getting like. Apart from that, they actually were one of my favorites, and I actually enjoyed them, like watching them throughout the race. Could they have been eliminated in the next leg? Possibly, because we know it's going to be a bit of a self drive with the next twist in the tail, which I'll get to in a minute. But they could, especially with a navigation, even at the start of this navigation era, could get you eliminated. So I don't know exactly if they would survive the next leg, but could they have won? I think they could have won. They've won a few legs. I think they have the determination to do it. It's just it would have been more hit and miss to see if they won. Honestly, I feel like everything just needed to be aligned perfectly, to see if they win. But they had a very good chance of winning. And as Han and Holden specifically said in this episode, like the really strong teams are here at the end, and they're the really competitive teams, and it was a tough one to get through. So it is a shame to see them go here. I'm gonna miss my boys. I'm honestly, I'm trying not to cry for this last few minutes of this segment, but we're now down to 4, and next week it's Portugal, and we have the latest new twist that has been revealed, which is valet parking. And it's a brand new twist to the race in which there are a set of car keys on a board, and at random, they're gonna choose a car key. I assume then the car they chose they can't swap it out. It's once they've chosen it, it's either gonna lead them to a manual car or an automatic. If it, and like they show like examples of previous teams in recent seasons like not doing well with like some of these manual cars. And so if Jack and Carson get a manual car, they'll be in trouble. Possibly. We know what happened last time they had the manual car. Let's be real. But we'll just see how this turns out. I think this could have been better mid-season, but we'll see how this turns out, as we'll have a final elimination before the big finale. It's going to be very exciting. So that is it for this week's episode of the podcast. Next week is going to be a double length finale special. Please do not miss that. It may be a little later because I've got Eurovision stuff to get through, plus my additional workload. So please bear with if I'm a little bit late. But if you want to leave me a 5-star review on the audio podcast, please do. And also make sure you are following the feed, the podcast feed. And if you want to leave me some feedback, send me an email at checkandchatpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you're watching on the YouTube version, listening on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Let me know also that you like it by clicking the like button. That will also do well, and it will let me know that you like this content, and it will be very much appreciated. And if you want to see me feedback, you can leave me in the comment section. Thank you so much all for listening, and I'll see you for the grand finale next week. Night night.